The Metropolitan Museum of Art buzzed with the typical Thursday evening crowd, but Natalia Reeves's attention zeroed in on the slight irregularity in the security guard's patrol pattern. 10 years of wet work for an agency that didn't officially exist had taught her to spot such details. Old habits died hard, even 3 years into her cover as an associate curator. The guard was new, still learning the rhythm of the museum's evening shifts. Nothing sinister, just human nature adjusting to routine. Natalia allowed herself to relax, focusing instead on adjusting the lighting for tomorrow's exhibition. The modern art wing had become her sanctuary, a place where she could almost forget the weight of the Glock 26 still strapped to her ankle. "The lighting makes it look like the ocean's on fire," a voice said behind her. James Harrison stood there, hands in the pockets of his tailored suit, studying the abstract seascape she'd been working on. His presence still made her pulse quicken, though not from the tactical threat assessment that had once dominated her life. "That's the point," she replied, allowing a genuine smile. "The artist painted this during the Gulf War. The burning oil fields reflected in the Persian Gulf." James moved closer, his shoulder brushing hers. "Dinner at Marcello's? I have something I want to discuss." 3 months of dating, and he still made formal invitations. It was part of his charm, the old-world courtesy that had first caught her attention at a gallery fundraiser. That, and the fact that her background check had revealed nothing more suspicious than a parking ticket from his college days. "Give me 15 minutes to finish here." The restaurant was their usual table, tucked away in a corner that gave her clear sightlines to both exits. James seemed distracted, playing with his wine glass instead of launching into his usual enthusiastic discussion about his latest venture capital projects. "I have to go to Singapore," he said finally. "There are some irregularities in one of our Asian investment portfolios. Could be nothing, but..." "How long?" Natalia kept her voice casual, though her mind was already calculating flight times, security protocols, potential threats. "A week, maybe 2. He reached across the table, taking her hand. "Come with me. The National Gallery there has an impressive Southeast Asian collection. You could make some contacts for the museum." For a moment, Natalia allowed herself to imagine it. A normal couple on a business trip, mixing work and pleasure. But she knew better. Southeast Asia still held too many ghosts, too many people who might recognize her from her previous life. "I can't leave right now," she said. "The exhibition opens next week." James nodded, but something flickered in his eyes. Disappointment? Concern? He squeezed her hand. "There's something else. I've been looking into some unusual financial patterns. Large amounts of money moving through shell companies. I think I might have stumbled onto something serious." Natalia's instincts flared. "Have you gone to the authorities?" "Not yet. I need to be sure." He pulled out a small USB drive. "I've copied everything here. If anything happens..." "James, what are you involved in?" "Probably nothing. But if I don't call you in 48 hours after I land, take this to the FBI. Ask for Agent Thomas Reed. He's an old college friend." Natalia took the drive, her training already cataloging multiple secure locations to hide it. "Be careful." James's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Always am. I love you, Nat." It was the first time he'd said those words. They were still echoing in her mind 3 days later when 2 police detectives showed up at her office. James's body had been found in his Singapore hotel room. The official cause of death, heart attack. Natalia listened to their condolences with a face carved from stone. She knew better. A man James's age, with his fitness level, doesn't just have a heart attack. Not without help. That night, she opened a hidden panel in her apartment's wall. The cache contained everything she'd walked away from 3 years ago: fake passports, untraceable currencies, weapons. Her fingers trailed over the familiar equipment as memories flooded back, the weight of a sniper rifle, the taste of adrenaline, the countless missions that had earned her the codename Ghost. She pulled out her secure phone, untouched for 3 years, and dialed a number from memory. "I need everything you can find on James Harrison's business dealings in Singapore," she said when the line connected. "And reactivate my clearances." The voice on the other end was silent for a moment. "You're supposed to be retired. Someone killed the man I love. Retirement's over." As she hung up, Natalia caught her reflection in the window. The carefully constructed facade of Natalia Reeves, art curator, was already falling away. What emerged was someone she hadn't allowed herself to be for 3 years, a hunter, a ghost, an instrument of vengeance. She opened her laptop and plugged in James's USB drive. As the files loaded, she began to plan. Whoever had killed James hadn't just murdered an innocent man, they'd awakened something far more dangerous than they could imagine. They would learn, too late, that some ghosts don't stay buried. Singapore's Changi Airport hummed with late-night activity as Natalia cleared customs under the name Rebecca Chen, an investment analyst from Hong Kong. Her carry-on contained nothing more suspicious than designer clothes and a laptop. The real tools of her trade had been shipped ahead through channels that wouldn't appear on any manifest. The Marriott hotel room where James died was already cleaned and rented to new guests, but Natalia hadn't come for the crime scene. She'd come for the security footage that the local police had mysteriously failed to obtain. Her contact, a former colleague named Victor, met her in a crowded hawker center. The scents of chili and garlic masked their conversation as tourists and locals alike crowded the plastic tables. "Your man was careful," Victor said, sliding a phone across the table. "But not careful enough. He met with this woman 2 hours before he died." The screen showed a grainy image of James sitting across from an elegant Asian woman in her 40s. "Madam Wei," Natalia breathed. The name carried weight in certain circles. Officially, she ran a shipping company. Unofficially, she controlled most of the money laundering operations in Southeast Asia. The next morning, your man accessed a secure terminal at United Overseas Bank. An hour later, he was dead. Victor's eyes held a warning. "This goes deep, Natalia. Wei answers to people who can make governments look the other way. I need access to that terminal." Victor shook his head. "Bank's biometric security is too tight." "But..." He slipped her a keycard. "Wei's holding a charity gala tomorrow night at the Marina Bay Sands. Every corrupt player in Asia will be there." Natalia had already noted the designer boutique across the street. "I'll need a dress." The gala dripped with wealth and power. Natalia circulated through the crowd in a red Versace gown, playing the role of a minor European art dealer. Her trained eye noted the private security details, the subtle bulges of concealed weapons under expensive suits, the quick exchanges of information that had nothing to do with charity. She spotted Madame Wei holding court near the windows overlooking the Singapore skyline. The woman's power was evident in how others orbited around her, seeking favor. But Natalia's attention was drawn to the man standing slightly behind Wei, tall, Caucasian, with a military bearing poorly disguised by his tuxedo. Recognition hit her like a physical blow. William Blackwood. Former CIA wetworks operator. Now, apparently, Wei's head of security. 10 years ago, their paths had crossed in Kabul. She'd put a bullet through his shoulder before he escaped. She turned away before he could spot her, mind racing. Blackwood's presence changed everything. If he was involved in James's death, this wasn't just about money laundering. The CIA had spent years trying to prove he'd gone rogue, selling classified intelligence to the highest bidder. A waiter passed with champagne. Natalia took a glass, using the movement to scan the room again. She counted 4 of Wei's security personnel, all professionals based on their positioning. Blackwood would have added his own protocols, which meant. Her instincts screamed a warning seconds before she spotted the plainclothes security moving through the crowd toward her. Someone had made her. But how? She set down her champagne and moved casually toward the terrace, mentally reviewing the building plans she'd memorized. The kitchens would be too obvious an escape route. The service elevator was likely already covered. That left. Ms. Reeves. Blackwood's voice froze her in place. Or should I say, ghost? It's been a while. She turned slowly. He stood 10 feet away, looking exactly as she remembered except for the gray at his temples. His left hand stayed carefully in his pocket, definitely armed. I'm afraid you have me confused with someone else, she said in flawless French accented English. I am Simone Rousseau, with the Gallery Luxembourg. Drop the act. Did you really think I wouldn't have facial recognition running on every guest? His smile didn't reach his eyes. I have to admit, I'm curious why you've surfaced after 3 years. This wouldn't have anything to do with James Harrison, would it? The name hit her like a knife to the gut, but she kept her face neutral. I'm here to bid on artwork for my gallery. Harrison was poking around in things that didn't concern him. Unfortunately, his heart couldn't take the stress. Blackwood's voice hardened. Walk away, ghost. This is bigger than you know. You killed an innocent man. There are no innocent men in this game. Check his background more carefully. You might be surprised. He gestured, and 2 more security personnel appeared at the terrace entrance. Now, you can leave quietly, or we can continue this conversation somewhere more private. Natalia's mind raced through scenarios. She could probably take down Blackwood and his men, but not without causing a scene. And she needed to know what he meant about James's background. You always did talk too much, William, she said, then vaulted over the terrace railing. The shocked cries of partygoers followed her as she caught the decorative ledge 2 floors down, exactly where she'd planned her escape route earlier. By the time Blackwood's men reached the terrace, she was swinging onto the maintenance platform she'd noted during her pre-event reconnaissance. 20 minutes later, she sat in her hotel room, still in the evening gown, reviewing everything she knew. James had been investigating money movements. He'd met with Way. Blackwood was involved. And apparently, James hadn't been as innocent as she'd believed. She opened her laptop and began digging deeper into James's past. If Blackwood was telling the truth, she needed to know what she'd missed. The man she loved had been keeping secrets, and those secrets had gotten him killed. Her phone buzzed with a text from Victor. Way's people are moving something big tomorrow. Container ship. Looks urgent. Natalia stared at the message, pieces clicking into place. James's financial investigation, Way's shipping company, Blackwood's involvement. This was about more than money laundering. She pulled up the shipping schedules for Singapore's port. Tomorrow would be busy, but she'd infiltrated harder targets. Whatever was on that ship, she was going to find it. And then William Blackwood would learn why they'd called her Ghost. The port of Singapore never slept. Even at 3 a.m, cranes swung their loads over massive container ships while trucks rumbled between towering stacks of cargo containers. Natalia crouched in the shadows of a shipping container, her black tactical gear helping her blend into the darkness. Through her night vision goggles, she watched the private security team patrolling around the Celestial Dragon, Way's flagship vessel. Their movements were too precise for typical dock security, these were professional military operators. Whatever was being loaded onto that ship warranted serious protection. Her earpiece crackled. Ghost, you're not going to believe what I found in Harrison's background, Victor's voice came through. He wasn't just a venture capitalist. 6 years ago, he worked for the Defense Intelligence Agency. Natalia's breath caught. What was his role? Classified. But I found something else. 2 weeks before his death, he made contact with Rachel Turner at the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Unit. The pieces started falling into place. James hadn't been just another businessman who stumbled onto something illegal. He'd been investigating Way's operation officially. "Why didn't he tell me?" she whispered, more to herself than Victor. "Maybe for the same reason you never told him about your past." The truth of those words stung. They'd both been living behind carefully constructed lies, keeping their real lives hidden from each other. Yet somehow, their love had been real. A new group of vehicles approached the ship, 3 unmarked vans with diplomatic plates. Natalia zoomed in with her camera as figures emerged from the vehicles. Her heart nearly stopped when she recognized one of them. "Victor, are you seeing this?" "Yeah. That's Senator Richard Palmer. What's a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee doing at a Singapore dock at 3 a.m.? Natalia photographed everything as Palmer spoke with a group of men in suits. One of them handed over a briefcase, which was quickly whisked away by Blackwood's security team. "Follow the briefcase," Victor advised. "No," Natalia said, watching Palmer. "Follow the money." She shadowed the senator's group as they headed back to their vehicles. One of the suits split off, heading for a nearby office building. Perfect. 15 minutes later, she had him pinned against a wall in a dark corridor, her forearm across his throat. "The briefcase," she growled. "What was in it?" "You're making a mistake," he gasped. "You have no idea what you're interfering with." She increased the pressure. "Try me." "It's a black budget operation," he wheezed. "Authorized at the highest levels. We're tracking international terror financing through Way's network." "By taking bribes from her?" He managed a bitter laugh. "You think that's what this is?" "Way's organization is a front. Has been for years. The real operation goes all the way to Beijing. The money, the shipping routes, it's all about getting our assets in place before." He stopped abruptly. "Before what?" A shot rang out. The man's eyes went wide, then vacant. Natalia dropped his body and rolled away as more bullets struck the wall where she'd been standing. From the darkness came a familiar voice. "I warned you to walk away." Blackwood emerged, his silenced pistol trained on her position behind a pillar. "This isn't about money laundering at all, is it?" she called out. "What's really on that ship, William?" "The same thing that's on all our ships. The infrastructure for the biggest intelligence operation in history." His footsteps drew closer. "Did you really think Way built her empire just to clean dirty money? Every port, every shipping route, every customs official we've bought, it's all part of the network. And James figured it out. Harrison was one of ours until he grew a conscience. Started asking questions about the endgame. We gave him a chance to come back in. He chose poorly." Natalia calculated angles, distances, possibilities. Blackwood was good, but he was also arrogant. That made him predictable. "You know what your problem is, William?" she asked, unclipping something from her belt. "You always did like to monologue." She threw her flashbang around the pillar. Even before it detonated, she was moving. The explosion and sudden light disrupted Blackwood's night vision. His first shot went wide. Natalia's didn't. Later, in her hotel room, she reviewed the files from the dead man's phone. Victor had been busy cracking its encryption. "This goes deeper than we thought," he said over their secure line. "Way's entire operation, it's a joint CIA-Chinese intelligence program. They're using her shipping network to position sleeper agents and surveillance equipment in ports across the globe. But something's wrong. Money's going missing, weapons are being diverted. Someone's running a shadow operation inside the official one," Natalia concluded. "Yeah. And Harrison found proof. That's what got him killed." Victor paused. "There's more." I finished that deep background check on him. Natalia, he was investigating you before you met. The revelation hit her like physical pain. What? Your gallery job, your new identity, he knew everything. But then something changed. The investigation stopped. He started looking into Wei instead. Natalia sat heavily on the bed, mind reeling. Had anything in their relationship been real? Then she remembered the way he'd looked at her that last night, the way he'd said, "I love you." He'd known who she was, what she was capable of. And he'd loved her anyway. Her phone buzzed with an alert. The celestial dragon was preparing to depart, destination unknown. "Victor, I need everything you can find on that ship's probable route. And get me access to James's Treasury Department contacts." "What are you thinking?" Natalia checked her weapons, mind already forming plans. "I'm thinking it's time to finish what James started. Someone's using this intelligence operation as cover for something bigger. We're going to find out what." She pulled up the ship's manifest on her laptop. The official cargo was listed as electronics and machine parts. But thanks to James's investigation, she knew better. The real question was, what else was hidden in those containers? And more importantly, who was really pulling the strings? The celestial dragon cut through the South China Sea like a steel leviathan, its massive hull carrying secrets worth killing for. From her position on a chartered fishing boat half a mile away, Natalia tracked the cargo ship's movement through high-powered binoculars. "Target vessel is maintaining course," Victor's voice crackled through her earpiece. "Satellite tracking shows they're headed for Hong Kong, but something's wrong. They're running dark, no transponder signal." "They're not going to Hong Kong," Natalia said, watching another vessel appear on the horizon. "They're making a transfer at sea." The second ship was smaller, sleeker, a private yacht that would draw no attention in any wealthy harbor. As it drew alongside the celestial dragon, Natalia captured high-resolution photos of the crew making the transfer. Multiple containers were being moved across, their contents unknown. Her satellite phone buzzed, Rachel Turner from Treasury, returning her call. "I've confirmed what you sent," Turner said without preamble. "The financial patterns match known Chinese intelligence operations, but with a twist. Someone's skimming billions off the top, using Wei's network to move the money. Any idea where it's going?" "We've traced some of it to weapons purchases. High-end military hardware, enough to outfit a small army. The rest?" Turner hesitated. "The rest is being used to buy influence. Politicians, military officials, intelligence agents, all in key positions across Southeast Asia. They're positioning for something big." James thought so too. The last time we spoke, he said he'd found evidence of a planned operation. Something that would destabilize the entire region. Natalia watched as more containers moved between the ships. "I need access to his treasury files. Already sent them to your secure drop. Be careful, 2 of my analysts died in accidents last week after accessing those files." The yacht finished its transfer and began moving away from the celestial dragon. Natalia memorized its heading, then turned to her own vessel's captain, another former operative who owed her a favor. "Follow that yacht. Quietly." The chase led them through the night, past fishing vessels and commercial shipping lanes, until the yacht anchored near a small private island. Natalia's infrared scope revealed heavy security patrols along the shoreline. "Victor, what am I looking at?" "Officially?" "A private resort owned by a Hong Kong investment group. Unofficially, satellite imagery shows underground facilities. Heavy power consumption. Regular visits from Wei's ships. A base of operations," Natalia concluded. She switched to her tactical frequency. "Strike team, are you in position?" "Affirmative." The voice belonged to Commander Helen Reed, an old friend from Natalia's former unit. When Natalia had called in her markers, Helen had brought her best people, all of them disgusted by the corruption they discovered within their own agencies. Security count? 20 on the perimeter. More inside. Mix of private contractors and Chinese special forces. They're well armed. Natalia checked her own weapons one last time. Remember, we need their servers intact. Whatever they're planning, the proof will be in their data. What about Wei? She's mine. The assault began at midnight. Helen's team created a diversion on the north side of the island while Natalia inserted from the water on the south beach. The security teams responded exactly as expected, rushing to defend against the frontal assault. Natalia moved through the compound like a ghost, her suppressed pistol dropping sentries before they could raise the alarm. The building plans Victor had obtained proved accurate, including the hidden elevator to the underground facility. She found Wei in her private office, calmly deleting files. "Step away from the computer," Natalia ordered. Wei turned, unsurprised. "The famous ghost. I wondered if you would find us." Her English was perfect, her manner aristocratic. "Did you ever ask yourself why James Harrison chose you? Of all the women in New York, why did he pursue the deadly operative playing at being a curator? He was investigating you. He was investigating everyone. Including you." Wei smiled. But then he made a mistake. He fell in love for real. And when he discovered what we had planned, his conscience wouldn't let him stay silent. "What are you planning?" "A new world order. One where China's dominance is assured." Wei gestured to her screens. "In 1 week, carefully placed agents will assassinate key military and political leaders across 6 countries. Stock markets will crash. Governments will fall. And in the chaos, China will step in to restore order. With you profiting from both sides. There are always opportunities in chaos." Wei's hand moved toward her desk drawer. "Don't," Natalia warned. "You know the amusing thing?" Wei continued. "Harrison found out about the plan from your old mission files. The ones where you helped us set up the network in the first place." The revelation struck Natalia like a physical blow. Years ago, her missions, she'd thought she was helping to track terrorist financing, but all along. "We all serve something larger than ourselves," Wei said, and then moved. She was fast, but Natalia was faster. 2 shots, center mass. Wei crumpled, her hidden pistol falling unfired. "Ghost, we've secured the servers," Helen reported over the radio. "But we've got company. Chinese military vessels approaching from the north." Natalia quickly downloaded everything from Wei's computer onto an encrypted drive. "Time to go." As her team extracted by sea, Natalia watched the island retreat into darkness. They had the evidence now, proof of corruption reaching into the highest levels of multiple governments. The question was, who could they trust to act on it? Her phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. The text contained only an image, a photo of her and James, taken the night he died in Singapore. Below it was a message, "This isn't over. B. Blackwood had survived. And somewhere in the shadows, the real architects of this conspiracy were still waiting." Natalia smiled grimly. Let them wait. She had their secrets now. And ghosts, as they would learn, could be very patient. Thunder rolled over Washington, D.C. as Natalia sat in a secure safe house, reviewing the evidence they'd extracted from Wei's servers. Rain lashed against bulletproof windows while Victor's voice came through the encrypted line. "The data confirms everything. Names, dates, bank accounts, the entire conspiracy. But there's something else." He paused. "I found communications between Wei and someone high up in U.S. intelligence. Someone who knew about your past missions." "Director Robert Kincaid," Natalia said quietly. The pieces had finally fallen into place. He was my handler back then. He authorized all those missions, helping set up Way's network, establishing the financing routes. He's been playing both sides for years. Using Chinese intelligence to build his own power base while convincing the CIA they were running the operation. Lightning flashed outside as Natalia absorbed the betrayal. Kincaid had known everything from the start. He'd probably even arranged for James to investigate her, knowing their paths would cross. Her secure phone buzzed with a message from Rachel Turner, Senate Intelligence Committee meeting tomorrow. Kincaid's testifying about Chinese intelligence operations. Closed session. Time to end this, Natalia said. You'll never get into that hearing, Victor warned. Security will be absolute. I'm not going to the hearing. Natalia checked her weapons. Kincaid still keeps his real records in a private safe. Old habits die hard. The storm provided perfect cover as Natalia infiltrated Kincaid's Georgetown mansion. The security system was state-of-the-art, but she'd helped design it years ago. Inside, she moved silently through darkened rooms full of expensive art and carefully curated photographs showing Kincaid with presidents and prime ministers. The safe was hidden behind one of those photos. As she reached for it, a familiar voice spoke from the shadows. I taught you that trick. Blackwood emerged, his gunshot wound from Singapore evident in his careful movements. Though I taught you a lot of things you seem to have forgotten. Like loyalty. Loyalty goes both ways, Natalia replied. Something Kincaid never understood. He understood power. How to take it, how to keep it. Blackwood's gun remained steady. Why do you think he had Harrison investigate you? He needed to know if you could be brought back in. And when James discovered the truth instead? Kincaid gave him a choice. Join us or die. He chose poorly. Blackwood's smile was cold. Just like you're about to. There's one thing you and Kincaid never understood about me, Natalia said. And what's that? I always have a backup plan. The flashbang grenade rolled from the darkness behind Blackwood. Even as he turned, Helen's strike team burst through windows and doors. In the chaos, Natalia moved. Her first strike knocked the gun from Blackwood's hand. Her second put him down. The safe, she ordered, zip-tying Blackwood's hands. Get it open. Inside they found exactly what she'd expected, detailed records of every operation, every betrayal, every dollar stolen and every life taken in Kincaid's ruthless climb to power. But there was something else, a familiar USB drive. James's files, she breathed. Kincaid kept them as insurance. Ghost, Helen called from the study. Live feed from the Senate hearing. Kincaid's about to testify. On the screens, Natalia watched as Director Kincaid took his seat before the Intelligence Committee. He looked supremely confident as he prepared to spin his web of lies. Send it, Natalia ordered. Across the city, every member of the Intelligence Committee simultaneously received a comprehensive file detailing Kincaid's crimes. As the chairman's aide whispered urgently in his ear, Kincaid's expression changed from confidence to confusion to fear. Federal marshals entered the hearing room. Natalia allowed herself a grim smile as they approached Kincaid's table. On another screen, news alerts began flooding in, simultaneous arrests across 3 continents as Helen's team transmitted the evidence to trusted authorities. Ghost. Blackwood's voice was weak. You have no idea what you've done. The system, it only works because of people like us. The necessary darkness. No, Natalia cut him off. That's what James taught me. There's always a choice. Always a way to do what's right. Hours later, Natalia stood in Arlington National Cemetery. The storm had passed, leaving the air clean and cool. She placed a single rose on James's grave. It's done, she said softly. All of it. Though I'm not sure you'd approve of my methods. He would have understood. Rachel Turner approached quietly. James believed in justice, even if the path there wasn't always straight. What happens now? The investigation will take years to unravel everything. Way's network, the compromised officials, all of it. Rachel handed her a file. We could use your help. Officially this time. No more shadows. Natalia considered the offer. Part of her wanted to disappear again, to return to the quiet life she'd built. But James had died trying to expose the truth. Continuing that work, helping to rebuild something better from the ashes of corruption, maybe that was the best way to honor his memory. One condition, she said. Everything we do is by the book. No more necessary darkness. Rachel nodded. Welcome back, Ms. Reeves. As they walked away from the grave, Natalia felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She would always be the ghost, would always carry the skills and instincts that had kept her alive. But now those skills would serve the light. Somewhere, she thought, James was smiling. In her pocket, her phone buzzed with a message from Victor. New intelligence suggests remaining elements of Way's network regrouping in Eastern Europe. Interesting? Natalia smiled. There would always be another mission, another wrong to right. But this time, she would do it the right way. Send me the files, she typed back. Time to get to work.